Good evening, YouTube. Hardball Crazy comeback video. Derek here has come back with a different type of video. I've never seen a video done like this before or about this before. I thought I had an idea. Thought I'd do a video. As you see by the title, my top 5 pre-war players. They're not Hall of Famers. These are guys all played the pre-war. Actually, one played just briefly after the World War II. But his last year was 47. I think his last baseball card, I think it was a 47 Sports Exchange. But all these players have 0 cards in the Bowman / Top / Leaf / Burke Ross / Redmond era. And all these guys have all cards pre-World War II, except for the one card post 47 Sports Exchange. But these are all non-Hall of Famers. So if you're Hall of Fame, you disqualify. I'm just giving some love to some of these my favorite players who needs to be more talked about. That hobby needs to know about, fans need to know about, and these were all phenomenal players. And I think pretty much all of them, I would vote for. There's no problem getting the Hall of Fame. There may be a couple are a little iffy, but they're all Hall of Very Goods at the very, very least. And they were all great players at the time, top stars at the time, just not Hall of Famers. Since they're not Hall of Famers, they kind of get forgotten about, and especially some when they either their teams no longer exist. I think, like the Washington Senators or the Philadelphia A's, or like those guys are not as collectible. At some point, they'll have the modern day Senator fans. Senators not around, so there's not Senator fans going back and collecting old Senators players, unless it's Walter Johnson, lesser saint like Goose Goslin. But to show all the cards I have each of these players, and a real brief bio. The first one, top 5 non-Hall of Fame pre-war players, guys I like the most. Got to start with a couple Tigers. First one is Owen Donnie Bush. His birth name is Owen. He got the nickname Donnie because one time he struck out and he asked the teammate what pitch was that. Then I think it was Killian. His name was Killian, and Killian said that was a Donnie ball, and he had no idea what that means. Never figured out what it means, but teammates started calling him Donnie, and the name stuck. That's how he got named Donnie Bush. It's not Donnie, it's Donnie. You look at Baseball Reference, the nicknames and bio, and it spells out phonetically Donnie. I have 2 cards of him. One is the T206, and it's my only polar bear back in my collection. Polar bear is probably my favorite T206 backs. And the other card I have of them is the Sporting Life. Great looking cards. Brief career synopsis of Bush. He was one of the best defensive shortstops of the era. He wasn't a big guy. He's like 5'9" or something, if that, maybe shorter than that. He was amongst the league leaders in runs scored, base on balls. Like I said, one of the top defensive players in the era. He was the Tigers teams with the World Series of 1908 1909, shortstop, leadoff hitter on the Tiger teams. He's the all-time leaders in the era of runs scored. He still has records for all-time defensive records, like putouts and assists and such like that. Like I say, he was one of the all-time best defensive shortstops of the era. Great player, not quite Hall of Famer, but you know what? Great player. Post-playing days, he was a baseball lifer. Post-playing days, got into coaching and managing. He was actually the manager of the 1927 Pittsburgh Pirates, who won a pennant and lost to the Murderers Row Yankees. Scouted, front office for the Red Sox, minor league manager. He was the minor league manager of Ted Williams in Minneapolis, and Ted Williams later said Donnie Bush was one of his early mentors, positive influences, and taught him how to become a professional hitter, professional ball player. And so Bush had a huge influence on young Ted Williams. And he Like I said, he passed away like baseball lifer, and back in his near of his life, he lived in Indianapolis. They called him Mr. Baseball. He was inducted into the Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame posthumously, and that is the career life of Owen Doney Bush. Next up is my second Tiger, a forgotten star of the era. A little better case for Hall of Fame, I think. His name is Bobby Veach, star left fielder of the Detroit Tigers. And he was overshadowed by Hall of Fame teammates. He debuted like in 1912, 1914, somewhere in there. The 1915 Tiger outfield with Veach left field, yes, Ty Cobb, and Sam Crawford. And obviously, Cobb and Crawford are Hall of Famers. And a 1915 Detroit Tiger outfield of those three, Bill James later wrote that considered the greatest outfield of all time. Once Crawford retired, Veach shared the same outfield with Cobb and Harry Heilman, another Hall of Famer, another appreciated star. And Veach held his own. He was not just the third outfielder. One of the top players in the era. He led the league in RBIs 4 times, doubles I think a couple times. He's got his baseball reference. He's got some good black ink on there. Not much of a power hitter, kind of post-playing days, but he had a career OPS of like a 120 something or whatever. On top of being a great hitter, he was considered one of the best defensive left fielders of all time, of the era. I'm sorry. And if you ask any Detroit Tiger historians to take all-time left fielders of all time, it's probably either Bobby Veach or Willie Horton. That's how good Bobby Veach was. He was just almost, if he had played a couple other good solid years, he'd probably be in the Hall of Fame. This is my only 2 Veach cards. Is this American Caramel here, one of my favorite pre-war cards, because the back it tells a checklist of the team. It kind of gives a synopsis of the kind of an insight of the who's on the Tigers team. Kind of matter of fact, Ty Cobb's on the back of the card. This one, and I got this one in National in Chicago. It's a 1916 in 101-04 of Bobby Veach. I'd love to get his 1915 Cracker Jack. That's sort of his rookie card. If I find one at a decent price, I'll pick it up in a heartbeat. But that's my other favorite pre-war non-Hall of Famer. There's a couple Tigers, Doney Bush and Bobby Veach. 2 great players. The next one is absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. You may be a little more familiar with him. Played in the Philadelphia A's prominently. His name is Bob Johnson, of Indian descent, so his nickname was Indian Bob Johnson. This is 34 Gowdy. He was a star player, slugger for the Philadelphia A's throughout the 30s and into the 40s. In his career with the Red Sox and I can't remember what else. Like a 7 or 8 time All-Star. His OPS plus is 130, like 139. So he's that much better than the 38% better than the league average of the era. But he was on the slugging team post last Connie Mack sell-off of Grove and Simmons and Cochran and others. And so he was a star amongst players who no longer were the bottom-dwelling Philadelphia A's, so he's kind of forgotten about, but he was a legit star of the era. And look at his stats, he's a Hall of Famer. The only problem is he started at age 27, so he didn't quite accumulate Hall of Fame caliber counting stats, but he started at age 27. He still did a phenomenal career. That's his 34 Gowdy rookie card. And I also have a Grand Slam from 1978, an autograph of him, too. Indian Bob Johnson. Great, great player. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Most baseball historians and believers and statisticians pretty much kind of agrees with him, but it's kind of hard at this point because the era committees now just groups everybody like pre-1980. And so he has kind of get lost with a lot of other names, especially with the Negro Leaguers are now part of that group too. And we're still learning and discovering how great some of these Negro Leaguers are. So they're kind of getting some preference now. So any pre-1980 Hall of Famers is getting kind of tough, especially getting the pre-war era. But I think Bob Johnson should be in. Another guy I think kind of should be in too. Considered the greatest American League catcher, all-around catcher prior to Mickey Cochran. Catcher was mostly notable for being a defensive-oriented catchers and great catchers in the Hall of Fame. Look at Ray Schalk and Roger Bresnahan. But their offense wasn't a thing for him. But this player was a great offensive player too. Very good offensive player, on top of being one of the top defensive catchers in the era. Who am I talking about? Wally Shang. This is his T222 1914 Fatima. You're familiar with Fatima team photo cards. They did have an oversized single player set too. This you could probably consider a rookie card of him. It's also got 1914 Cracker Jack too. I'd absolutely love to have that one too. But let me tell you about Wally Shang. Impressive career. He started in 1913 with the Philadelphia A's here. You can tell with the Philadelphia A's. And his first year with the Philadelphia A's, starting catcher, they won the World Series. 1914, they went back to the World Series but lost to the Boston Braves. They were known as the Miracle Braves because on July 4th, the Braves were dead last in the National League, but somehow they won the pennant in the World Series, hence become known as the Miracle Braves. And early, the first Connie Mack Philadelphia A's sell-off, Shang was sold off to the Boston Red Sox. His first year in the Red Sox in 1918, guess what? They won the World Series again. The last World Series, of course, prior to 2004, obviously. You all know about your Red Sox and curse and all that stuff. But Shang was the starting catcher with that team. Of course, Harry Frazee, the owner of the Red Sox, was selling off all his players. So 1921, after selling off Ruth and others, Harry Hooper and Tris Speaker and others, Shang was one of them. They sold off to various teams. He was sold to the New York Yankees. 1921, the first year with the New York Yankees, they won the pennant. Didn't win the World Series. 1922, went back to the pennant. 1923, went to the pennant, went to the World Series again. His first 3 years with the Yankees, he won the pennant. In 1923, they finally won the World Series. And this is my second Wally Shang card with the Yankees. This is the W575-1. And you could probably consider Wally Shang the first great Yankee catcher prior to Bill Dickey, Yogi Berra, Elston Howard, Thurman Munson, and Jorge Posada. Shang was actually the first Yankee great catcher, if you want to collect Yankee great catchers. How good of a player was he? Well, like I said, he was a top defensive catcher of the era. He still holds the record for most putouts by a catcher. He once one game, he once threw out 6 base runners trying to catch stealing. He was actually the first player ever, switch hitter. He was a switch hitter, first switch hitter ever to hit home runs both sides of the plate in one game. He was actually the first one. There's a little trivia question answer for you. First player ever to hit switch hit home runs in the same game was actually Wally Shang. He was a career 287 hitter, like OPS plus 117. He only had like 1,500, 1,600 career hits. Of course, he was a defensive catcher and great athlete. He's still among all-time leaders, top 5 or 6 all-time in stolen bases for a catcher. And he played in a total of 6 World Series. And he played well in the World Series. He actually had a career 287 hitter, so he actually was just a bit better than his career numbers as a player. So come crunch time, come World Series time, he actually performed well. He was, like I said, he won 6 pennants, won 3 World Series with 3 different teams. I'd love to get his W514 card of him, so I actually have a card of him for each team he won a World Series with. He finished his career after the Yankees. He went to St. Louis Browns. Obviously, he didn't win the World Series with them. And a little bit with the Tigers in 1930. I think it was 30. In the age 40 season, He actually went to the World Series again with the Philadelphia A's, but he was a backup. He didn't play in the World Series, but he participated in 6 World Series. Won 3 of them as a starting catcher. Played just well his career. Top defensive catchers and hitting catchers of the era, and considered the best AL catcher in baseball prior to all-around catcher prior to Mickey Cochran, and just a great player. He's a winner. Wherever he went, he won. Except for St. Louis Browns, obviously he can't win there. And but great player. He probably should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people would think he's in the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's probably just, like I said before with Johnson, there's just so much hard to get in the Hall of Fame. And I think Wally Shang people should know more about, and should get a little more hobby love. My last one, speaking of needing hobby love and know more about, I think it's a travesty. This guy is pretty much unknown. How good of a player he was, how much of a hero he was, and how much of a good guy he was. Who am I talking about? His name is Cecil Travis. Washington Senators shortstop, all-star. He came up as a third baseman, and his first Major League ball game, he got 5 hits. First player of the 20th century ever do that. No one's ever done it since. But became primarily a shortstop. This is his 39 play ball rookie card. His cards are pretty much commons. And he was like a 4 or 5 time All-Star with the Washington Senators. 1941, 1941, the American League. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio. Ted Williams hit 406. DiMaggio had a 56-game hitting streak. Guess what? Travis actually led the league in AL in hits that year. So he got more hits than a 400 hitter, and got more hits than a 56-game hitting streak. He actually finished the year at 359 batting average, 2 points higher than Joe DiMaggio, obviously distance away from Ted Williams. So he was right there in the top hitters in the American League that era. Obviously, DiMaggio and Williams got all the press. Williams played in the bad Washington Senators teams. And so he gets unloved. But Ted Williams once said that he was the top 5 left-handed hitters Ted Williams ever saw. Bob Feller said he's one of the toughest outs he ever had, was Cecil Travis. After the 1941 season, obviously, World War II hit. And Cecil Travis was one of many players went to World War II. And I'm going to link a video I just recently saw this week about the baseball in World War II. Very in-depth, very good video about baseball in World War II. It goes in very much detail. If you feel like you're part of it, I'm going to have the link down there. Any baseball fan, World War II fan, you got to watch it. It's phenomenal. But 1941 hit. Cecil Travis actually went into combat, went to Battle of Bulge, and he got a serious case of frostbite. It came back from war and wasn't the same player since. Just a fraction of what the player was. So he basically was a below average player when he came back. All-star, headed in the Hall of Fame, possibly. He left age 27 to the war. He had 30 war already, like 1,500 career hits. So conceivably, if he had continued his career in that path, he could have maybe got 3,000 hits and could have gotten, more All-Stars, more recognition. He could have been in the Hall of Fame. But went to war, came back, Battle of Bulge, frostbite, shell of a player. Quit after 1947, played 3 years. He says, I'm done. Last year he had like 212. And this is his actual first card, is a Diamond Matchbook card. This is like 35-ish or so. I can't remember the exact year. So this is my earliest Cecil Travis card. I had to add it to my collection. And I actually have a Conlon autograph card of Cecil, and this is baseball in wartime. It tells you nice bio on Cecil Travis. Came back to the war. He wasn't resented that he lost his career. He was a scout, coach post-career, then ended up retiring down in his home in Georgia, his farm. A couple other Cecil Travis tidbits. He is second all-time batting average among shortstops career. He has a 314 career average even after his post-World War less than stellar era seasons. Honus Wagner is the only one to have a higher career batting average than Cecil Travis. He's like number one all time in American League shortstops. Um, if you just count American League stats, only I think Nomar has more. But if you count the Nomar's National League stats, he actually has a lesser career. Nomar Garcia Parra, lesser career batting average than Cecil Travis. So Cecil's right there among the all-time great hitting shortstops. Talk about batting average. He wasn't much huge power hitter, but he was a look at his baseball reference. He has some nice stats and good seasons. And I think it's a crime that people don't know anything about him. He's a forgotten player. He was a phenomenal player, hitter, and he's a World War II hero. But he's a common. Nobody knows who he is. I rambled long enough about this video here, so I'm going to cut it off here. That's my 5 favorite pre-war non-Hall of Famers. Who's your favorites? Non-Hall of Famers in the pre-war era. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.